Did you know that March 20th of this month is actually the beginning of the Astrological New Year? Not just that, it's also the beginning of the Phoenician New Year and the beginning of the New Year for many of the world's oldest civilizations around the world, marked by the Spring Equinox, which this year in 2025 is falling on March 20th. Hello and welcome back to Phoenician Priestess. It's me, the Phoenician Priestess, and I'm here to bring you an informational video on why this is the new year, what you should do, and as well as my very detailed, in-depth forecast for my predictions for this new year. It will be based on personal collective level and then mundane astrology collective level, which is going to be talking more about government, politics, current events, and other things related to that. So everything from earthquakes to aliens to presidents will fall in that category. So I am posting a lot of videos. Well, for me, it's a lot because these videos are long and take a lot of research recently. Because this is a crazy astrological time frame. We find ourselves in the middle of two eclipses. We're in the middle of the peak eclipse window. If you watch my last video about the eclipse portal timing, you'll understand what I'm talking about. We're right before the Aries new moon eclipse and right after the Virgo lunar eclipse. And so we have the energy of these two eclipses massively compounding. And it's at this time that we're actually having the Astrological New Year. This is a really, really big deal. And you'll hear me from November talking about my prediction videos coming up for this, whether it's Gregorian New Year, or now this Astrology New Year, how basically this time frame being marked right now is a gigantic time frame for planet Earth, for humanity, for civilization as we know it. Which also means, right, because we're all drops in this collective, that it's going to be a massive time frame for you and for your life. Some people are going through major changes. And at the end of this astrological new year, which is also coinciding with a lot of the activity around the Pisces Virgo axis, and also coinciding with some of the biggest transits that we've seen in generations, a century and a half, that we're seeing this year. By the end of it all, right, by next year, whether we're talking Gregorian or astrological, a lot of you are going to be completely different people, living completely different lives. This is the time where so many people are going to be experiencing timeline jumps, but this is also the time where humanity is getting tested. We are truly living through the mass awakening of humanity, and there's a lot that comes with that. Now, before getting into the big details of it, how to think of the astrological new year, it's quite simple. Everything that we think of, that society makes us think of in terms of the modern day new year, and I'm going to talk more about that and that history and why the change, my theories, of course, and what the impact of that change could be on you and on society. But anyway, how you think of the regular new year, right? The modern new year that is on the Gregorian New Year on January 1st. That's how you should be thinking of the astrological new year in terms of what you should do and how you should handle it. This is the time, the spring equinox is the time when the earth is fertile, when flowers are blooming and blossoming again, right? When we've come out of the cold of winter and before the heat of summer, when it's supposed to mean that it's the season that represents fertility. And that is energetic as well, because as above, so below, we are from earth and from earth we shall return. And our DNA and our energetic coding knows that. So this is the time that you should be setting New Year's resolutions. This is the time that you should be doing new habits or introducing new habits, asking yourself, what do I want to call in? Doing manifestation ceremonies, doing manifestation rituals, doing prayers, asking yourself who you want to be, what you want to embody, making changes, setting goals, putting in action plans, start taking aligned action. I also do set little goals as well with the Gregorian New Year on January 1st, because I believe that what the collective believes creates the reality. So I believe that because all of the collective is focused on January 1st, it's still a great time to look at goals. But the thing is, with the March New Year, with the March equinox, the spring equinox, it's not just the human collective. It's all of Mother Nature. It's all of Earth. It's all of wildlife. We are all synchronized here. So the universe at this point is giving you the chance to birth your new reality. And this year more than any year. And listen, we've been going through a crazy astrological year the last 2 years, and the next 3-4 years are also going, like 5 years are going to be crazy as well. But this year is the catalyst of them in terms of the seeds that are being planted. And I'll go a little bit more into that. But what I mean is this energy in terms of you personally is giving you everything you need to supercharge your intentions, your manifestations. You're going to be getting downloads. The universe is going to be nudging you. You're going to be getting signs, intuitions. You're going to have drive. For some of you, it's going to be maybe hard, a lot of like death, rebirth energy, a lot of the cocoon rising again. But the universe, Mother Nature, the heartbeat of planet Earth is all aligned in this time. Just like the soil is fertile for seeds growing, just like Persephone rising from the underworld, it's all aligned in this time to help you bring your goals into fruition, make your dreams into reality, and cement them into the 3D. So what you should do is handle it just like you would the new year. Set some goals, manifestations, affirmations. Like I said, I do it on the new year, but sometimes I don't maybe go through them very quickly. Maybe I don't refresh my vision board, but come the spring equinox, that's when I take it very seriously because, that's when the power of the universe and energy is behind it. That's when, just like, October around All Hallows Eve, around the fall equinox, the veil between the worlds is thinner. I believe that around spring equinox in a different way, the veil between the worlds is also thinner. And so this is really the time that I don't skip on my goals. I don't skip on my vision board. I make sure to take time to pray. I mean, I pray very often anyway, but take that more seriously, and in an exciting way. What you birth in this time, what you focus on, it's going to boom, cement. And this is amplified by the fact that we are sitting in between two eclipses, and 9 days after the spring equinox on March 29th, we have a big lunar eclipse. And then the day after on March 30th, we have Neptune ingressing in Aries, which is going to get its own video because this is truly life-changing, and not just life-changing, but linked to some of the predictions that Nostradamus even made. And I will talk about that maybe in this video, maybe in its own video. My point is, humanity is going to get wild, okay, the next few years, but this is really the time when things like The Matrix, Cloud Atlas, V for Vendetta, okay, maybe shift that one. But this is the time when, if we take the principles of The Matrix, how it talks about Neo realizing that he can bend the Matrix to his will, and the reality in the Matrix revolves around his will. It's going to be that you're going to be learning that lesson. And so even if it seems so crazy and far-fetched, you can bend now more than ever, and in the coming timeline we're in, you can bend reality around you and basically almost exist in parallel realities within this one in terms of what you're attracting versus maybe the chaos that the media is projecting, things like that. So just because, some people are using these big words like awakening and chaos and change and never the same, doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's quite the opposite. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing time to be alive. God, I hope I'm recording. And, yeah, so that's what you should do. Take some time, do an intention setting ceremony, definitely on the day of the equinox, but you can also do it the day before. This is for the Persians now, they've already started celebrating Nowruz. They start before, leading up to the equinox. What the Phoenicians used to do is actually start with the equinox and go after, normally until around April 1st, which is actually where we get April Fool's Day from, and I'll explain that later. But first, to help you guys set new goals and birth into a new reality, at least to help my female listeners, on the weekend of the spring equinox, I'll actually be doing a workshop in a women's summit where I'll be joining 20 other female speakers and leaders in many different fields. And we will be doing a female empowerment summit, and it's 3 days purposely timed with the equinox to bring this energy of death and rebirth, of creating your dream life, of rebirthing into radiance. And it is a virtual summit, so no matter where you are in the world, you can tune in. And even it is going to be live, but even if you're not going to be able to tune in live, you actually could get recordings for all 3 days and you can watch them anytime. And I have a discount code that you can use. Use the discount code Petra11 to save some money. Even though it's already a great deal and price, because you're getting access to over 20 different workshops from women with all sorts of different backgrounds, talking about everything from financials and abundance to physical health and qigong to sensuality, to healing trauma. And the workshop I'll be doing, and I've mentioned it a little bit in my bio, but besides having my astrology business, actually in the Muggle world and what I used to do together, but I now separated, I'm actually a certified mental health coach and certified life coach and master NLP practitioner, which is also comes into the past life regression work that I do. Anyway, so for this workshop, you'll be seeing more the coach hat of me, even though it's weaving in a lot of the spirituality and the esoteric. And I will be teaching women how to stop their people pleasing, understanding where people pleasing and being too nice is actually making you sick, affecting your health, affecting your body, how you can tell if it's affecting your body, how it's affecting your money, your abundance, how it's affecting your dating and relationships, and of course, your mental health and your energy and emotional health. We'll talk about the different wounds and traumas that are actually tied to that, and learning to help you understand where yours comes from. And then we'll actually be doing a live subconscious reprogramming demo that I will be leading within the session using NLP principles, as well as mixing in some principles of parts work therapy and other tools that I use to start having changes and reversing any inkling of people pleasing that you have within you, which is honestly, it's a trauma response or defense mechanism or evidence of a lingering wound. Anyway, anyone who comes to that, attendees coming to that each one will be getting something free, as well as a special little gift for things happening after. So check that out, because this is perfectly timed with the Spring Equinox, well, on purpose, to help empower so many women and help you create the life that you want. And you can watch it anytime after. And the NLP based subconscious reprogramming exercise that we'll be doing in my workshop, you can also listen to anytime after, whenever you want to replay it and re-trigger that change within you. The other announcement I have is that if you missed the last video, we announced the winners for the latest giveaway, and the winners are going to be in the comment section below. And also announced in the last video. And if you are one of the winners, there were 2 announced. All you have to do is check the link in the YouTube bio, click ahead and schedule there. And lastly, don't forget that it's not too late to enter the next giveaway. It's actually just started, so it's going to be 4 videos before I announce it. Last week was the next cycle around. Any comments after a subscription, you have to subscribe and comment to count, will count as an entry, and then every additional comment counts as an additional entry. Sorry if that was confusing. My brain just wants to get to the astrology, but I have to do all this admin stuff. Last, certainly not least, if you want to book personal readings with me, anything from transit to love, astrology, health, money, natal chart, whatever, past life, you can do that with the link in the bio on my new website, www.phoenicianpriestess.com. And last, but certainly not least, but I hope last, I also launched my new Instagram. It's still a baby Instagram, and it's Phoenician Priestess on Instagram. Come be one of my first followers. I'll remember you forever. I'm not kidding. Like on my coaching Instagram, which at one point when I first started was coaching mixed with astrology, I still remember some of my first followers even after I hit 6,000. So, which is, I know in the Instagram world, not a lot, but for me is a lot. Okay, we're happy with that. So, okay, those are all the announcements. I would love to see you at the summit. And I think if you're on this channel listening to this, you're going to love it. I'm actually going to be doing another workshop with them later that is going to be not Coach Petra, but it's going to be as the Phoenician Priestess. And it's going to be astrology based, and that will be happening in a few months. And I'll let you know about this one. This is still taking in concepts of spirituality, but it will not be astrology based. It will be using neurolinguistic programming and combining the practical, and all that practical science-based evidence with the spiritual and holistic. All right. that was the long announcement. Let's get into the astrological new year starting on March 20th. Oh my God, I cannot believe we're here already. Okay, so I love seeing the same pattern in the skies for multiple months because that sends a clear signal. Okay. And maybe you can tell by my smile. But what's interesting is what I am seeing astrologically is what in the last week I have started to hear other different esoteric practitioners that don't even do astrology, like mediums or tarot readers or whatever, also say this. And looking at astrology after pulling multiple charts to understand what's coming in this next year thematically, I see it too. So I actually have had a very strong feeling that this is, and I've said it in some other videos, that this is going to be a year about divine union. And I talked about it in some other videos because a lot of transits are showing this. So this is a year where it's about divine unions coming together. And it's interesting because frankly, it's also a year of chaos. It's a year of, it's going to continue what I talked about in November because I was predicting beyond just November, but now I see it in more detail. The charts here today. But it's a year that is talking about government, like a lot of government change and society as we know it shifting to a point where it's almost collapse of the old. And a lot of people that didn't wake up the last few years are being initiated, are having their spiritual awakening. And that always, for that to happen, there's always a certain level of chaos in the collective. But simultaneously with this happening, we see so much love energy. And with the awakening of humanity, the love part is possibly one of the most important, if not the most important part. And yes, I mean that in a romantic sense. I mean, part of it, of course, is love in general, love for ourselves, love for our neighbor, love and connection with God and understanding that God is love and in everything and, all this stuff, and building that relationship as well, right? That the modern world tries to take us away from. And the old world darkened and perverted and made it this thing of fear. But the thing about union, right, is when each energy, we're talking about energy, each feminine soul and each masculine soul embodies their divine nature, the polarity, the yin and the yang. And each one truly, I believe, and as I see written as well, does have a high vibrational divine counterpart. Of course, I believe we have many soulmates, but there's a high vibrational divine counterpart. And in not all lifetimes do we have our divine union. In many lifetimes, we might just, of course, still get an amazing soulmate, maybe a karmic soulmate that I think is what when people say twin flame is what's described as. Some people use twin flame to describe what I'm calling a divine union, which is non-karmic, doesn't come with lessons. Or as I wrote about in my book, you can check it out. It would be the third love archetype. It's a spiritual philosophical archetype. That's basically the archetype of the divine union in a way. When divine unions, of course, most divine unions have existed in past lives together. In some cases, this might be the first life you meet, even though your souls know each other. But honestly, if you're watching this video, then you're not a new soul, which means you probably would have met them before. But in any case, they're your highest vibrational match. And they're the match picked to purposely balance. It's you two together like puzzle pieces that balance each other in yin and yang. And this is the time right now that I'm seeing, this is the year where a lot of unions are being called to come in. A lot of unions of people who have a mission. And in some ways, just holding that divine frequency of love can be part of that mission, because as you see, looking around you, looking at relationships, society, community, what's happening to women, what's happening to men, what's happening to love, what's happening to marriage, what's happening to sex, what's happening to family, what's happening to, the divinity in both feminine and masculine, it's so needed. what's happening between countries and societies and worlds and religions. Love is needed, as cliche as that sounds, but it's true. There's a reason the only thing that all faiths and religions and philosophies have in common is the power and the importance of love. And this is what's coming. And why the union of two puzzle pieces coming together is so important, and why it's happening now, and why it's the fact that it's even across multiple charts, right? And it's being picked up by other mediums and psychics and tarot readers and astrologers, and in the Eastern astrology world and in the Vedic world. I'm not sure about the Vedic world, but in the Western world. Why is because it's part of the tool of the awakening, right? And this is a whole big Pandora's box. But to sum it up, when two divine counterparts come together, they showcase the world divine love. They showcase their community, the people around them, divine love. First of all, that alone is powerful, because that's something that day by day, generation by generation, we are truly forgetting. We're forgetting it even exists. We don't even know, a lot of people don't even know how to emulate it, right? They think it's something that's a fairy tale. And second thing is that energy is contagious. It's healing. It's like a lamp or a lantern. What's the word? There's another word I'm looking for. Whatever. It's like a lantern or a light in the dark where it glows around it, and anyone who touches it, is positively impacted by that. More than that, if we think of the collective awakening of humanity as like a cup of water, right? And for us to hit a vibration that's high enough to be, high vibrational, conscious, awake, whatever. Insert new age term, but you get what I mean. Say that point is, for example, here, okay? And each person working on themselves is a little teeny tiny microscopic drop that if 1 million people work on themselves, it like shifts it like here. But if 1,000 lovers, way less, divine unions come together and come in a force field of divine love, it shifts it like here. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's like a mega tool, mega power when it comes to the awakening of consciousness of humanity. Because, I like no BS astrology. No BS is my approach, but empowering no BS. And there exists a polarity, just like there's a polarity in nature. There's also polarity in good and bad, right? And the powers that be don't want the awakening of humanity to happen. And so one way they play with this is, you hear this a lot, the agenda. And one thing the agenda does is to destroy the feminine and the masculine, the divinity of them, destroy love, destroy intimacy, right? Because sex magic is the most powerful thing on the planet and is the closest you can be to source. I use that word strategically, so the extremists don't come after me. So that's why we have that this year. We have that polarity. We have that, their Algol is incredibly active the entire year, which comes from Arabic Ras al-Ghul. Algol is a fixed star. And if you speak Arabic, then Ras al-Ghul probably tells you the energy you need to know about the star. If you don't speak Arabic, don't worry, I'm not going to translate it. Go look it, because I don't want to scare you. I'll just say it's not necessarily bad, but it is chaos. It is chaos. But that chaos is forcing all of humanity to look in the mirror and forcing a rebirth in that sense. And so, with this collapse, with the effect of all these other transits, Neptune ingressing in Aries, Saturn and Neptune will be having a conjunction later, which is the transit we've seen in major world events. Going back to world events as in the last 200 years, events that really define the world. All of these things at the same time, there's this call of divine union. And that's the polarity. Now you understand why they come together. Because to balance this out, both sides are getting their chess piece moving forward. And the side of love, the side of good, right? The biggest chess piece is coming out now, right? The queen, if you play chess. I love chess. Oh, God, please send me a man that will play chess with me. And the biggest chess piece that's coming out, the queen, right? The queen, because she can do all the moves, is coming out now. And that is starting to call the unions to come together. Now, not everyone, again, has a divine that will be with their divine union in this life. And in some cases, not this year, because you have to undergo a lot of your own spiritual growth to be on that journey. But a lot of you who are listening, especially if you've been called to my channel, are probably on that journey, because the world works like that. It doesn't follow the laws of what we deem as, the laws of the material realm. Of course, quantum physics is starting to explain, but we attract the energy and frequency that we emit, and soul tribes, soul clusters also attract to each other, and the message you need to hear comes to you at the right time. So if you're listening to this, it's highly likely that your soul is recognizing some of the words that I'm saying, and some of you already knows this to a certain extent. Some of your soul is already feeling it, and it can feel kind of chaotic. You could be feeling delusional. You could be like not getting sleep. You could be feeling so giddy, and then feeling very down and hopeless, and then feeling giddy again and happy, like something good is coming, and then feeling like you're all in your head. You could be feeling like someone is coming for you. You could be sensing their energy. Some of you, and pardon if this is too candid, but some of you could suddenly be feeling very turned on, and you don't know why. And there's nothing, that is triggering that. And that's because you're picking up on the energy. You're picking up on your destiny. You're picking up on what is about to come in through. And for those that are awakening to their divine union this time, it's very important. And a lot of those who would not be meeting it this year, although this year will be seeing, my prediction, a large portion of divine unions coming together. For a large portion of those who aren't ready for that yet, but will be called to that in this lifetime. And again, like I said, it's a lot of humanity. They will be being pushed the direction they have to be to prepare for that. Whether it's waking up to the reality of us being spiritual beings inhabiting physical bodies versus us being physical beings having a spiritual experience, whether it's the true nature of how the laws of the universe function, whether it's the true reality of the powers that be and how the world is run, whether it's them facing their own shadows, their wounds, and the impact of their free will. Any of those. So this year could be pushing a lot of those people who are in this lifetime called to that divine union journey to start getting ready or to really amp up. So if you've been someone that's been settling a lot in love, if you've been someone that has been with the wrong person and deep down you know it, or is allowing yourself to be treated badly, is in something really toxic, or you're not embodying your true self, or you're finally having spiritual awakening, this is going to be a giant year in terms of that sense. And it's all serving to help this large mass awakening of humanity. Wow, I spent a long time on love. I think it's great. Better before I jump into the next portion. Hold your horses, or hold on to what is it? Hold on to, fasten your seatbelts. Okay. Yes. So let's continue before I get into the big kind of zooming out current events predictions. Like I said, this is a year focused on relationships and partnerships, and there's that strong drive towards harmony. So a lot of you will be cultivating balance, fairness when it comes to that. This is also about a time where, people are being called for practical action grounded in spiritual ideals. So it's about not just being stuck in the head and in the other realms, but this energy is asking you to bring a foundation for your dreams and to balance reality with intuition. There's also a sense that there's going to be growth and freedom when it comes to the new way that unions are being built. Freedom from this dystopic picture of love and of unions that is being expressed in society. And a lot of these divine unions coming together will be of a spiritual nature, natures that align with your philosophies, your beliefs. And so that's one indication that you're with the right person. Not saying it has to be exact, but you won't have to throw away your values, your integrity, your morals. You won't have to feel belittled for what you believe. You can explore the world in a spiritual sense together if this is the time, if this journey resonates with your path. What's interesting is that the March 19th, right before the equinox, and some sources are even putting the timing as March 20th, the day of the equinox, Juno, the asteroid I love to talk about, goes retrograde. Juno is the asteroid that represents love, commitment, marriage. It's love in the sense of marriage and your life partner. It will go retrograde, which is inviting you to reflect on past commitments. There's the chance that you might revisit relationships and see whether they require transformation, if there's another chance for them. There's a chance that someone from your past might come forward. There's a chance that someone from your past life might come forward. I made a portion on this before. Juno retrograde, just pay attention, right? Because sometimes it could be coming to teach us something. Sometimes it's actually coming to bring them in permanently. But sometimes when someone comes in, even if they are the right person, when they come in during a Juno or Venus retrograde, there can be a bit of a bumpy ground. So even though this is the time where you very well might be meeting your divine union this year, just at least in this time frame while Juno's in retrograde, which I believe is until July, just kind of like, take it a bit slowish or have some discernment. This will be the first year that we're experiencing the first one of the whole year being Pluto in Aquarius, which Pluto moved into Aquarius in November. And so this is going to continue to reshape and make us question the relationship between freedom, individuality, community values, and the self. A lot of people are going to be questioning their own relationship with social causes, with their morals, and how they fit into large social structures. There's also a bold energy coming at this time that is that is bringing independence and assertiveness, which is further amplifying this time around the Spring Equinox, the Astrological New Year, to bring your goals into light. This is a year where you in your individual life could experience very sudden shifts very fast. Like I said, this is a year where you could timeline jump. Your brain can be absorbing new things very fast. Prepare for a revolution in thought. For a lot of people, like I said, even if you think, I'm awake, I already know everything, even if I think that, which I don't, but I'm humbled every day, which is how we should be. But even if we think, okay, I think I already know a lot, this is going to be a time where it's going to continue this theme of the last since 2020, a revolution in thought. But this year is further amplified because those who did not wake up the last 2 years are going to be forced to wake up more now. Things are going to happen around the world that are forcing a lot of these people to challenge their patterns of thinking and to embrace new ways of that. Expect disruptive and innovative ideas, and this could be your chance to use them to help your own life go forward. There's a lot of themes with the astrology for this year that have to do with idealism and spiritual growth and balancing that out together and bringing that with the practical. So you'll need to align your dreams with practical steps because reality and illusion may sometimes blur this time. You could find yourself stuck in your head or stuck in your emotions or stuck in other worlds a lot. And you just have to come back down and remember that we chose to be on Earth for a reason. And you have to learn how to work the Earth plane, right? You can't just be living in La La Land. Okay. You can be a spiritual divine being and still make sure, you have a good enough life because you need to be able to take care of yourself on this planet to actually help other people. Be aware, though, with all of this energy of divine love and soul connections coming in, like I said, for some, it'll be a lot of lessons. So use discernment because in some cases, too, there could be confusion or disillusionment when it comes to love. And with how Mars is playing a part in this year, in a different chart besides the transit chart, this can encourage bold, assertive action. And sometimes passion can have us lose clarity. So just be aware of that when you're going through that. There's an energy here that has to do intensely with sexuality and sensuality on a collective level. It's a time for people to explore their personal desires in a way and their connection with Eros, but also their connection with Black Moon Lilith, their connection with what society has shamed and with what divine sensuality, divine sexuality is. Their connection with even how society has perversed a lot of sexuality and sensuality and intimacy. There's a calling here that is getting louder on this planet to break free from limiting and toxic and dark and tainted sexual or emotional constructs. At the same time, the dark side of the agenda will be pushing this more and more. And so for some people, depending on the reality you're in, you may see reflections more of kind of the lower vibration of sensuality and sexuality and intimacy. And that's an indication to you, a mirror of what might have to be healed internally or might be reflecting your belief of what exists and what's available. And this year is a year to heal that because sex magic, I'll do a video on that too, is the most powerful force sexual energy is the most powerful energy force on the planet, and sex magic is utilizing that and understanding the power of that. And sex is something holy, okay? And when it's been either taken and shamed and made bad and a sin, then it taints it and destroys it. But when it's also made so cheap and casual and what's the word? I don't even know the word. Unattached or no strings attached, and perverse, when they try and use don't kink shame as an excuse to push things that are actually degrading other people, objectifying, violence, and affecting men badly, and thus affecting women badly and affecting relationship badly. It has a domino effect, and it actually amplifies that negative energy on the whole planet. So this is a year where the polarity on both sides is increasing, and it's going to be a theme for this year where a lot of people, they're going to be pushing this kind of darker one, and a lot of people are also going to be pushed to realize the kind of brighter one and come back to the magic and safety and power of sensuality and sexuality and intimacy, and especially intimacy shared within a divine union and within yourself, and how you can use that energy yourself, and reuse it and send it out into the world. Okay. So let's zoom out and go into a more broad, non-personal level, but still on a collective. This is a year that, I've said it before, but is really marking global transformation in technology and collective progress. If you thought AI has come so far and already changed things, this year is, by the end of this astrological new year, the whole world is truly going to look different. And that's not just applying to AI, it's also applying to space exploration, UFOs, aliens, disclosure, things like that. As always, use discernment. You'll know what that means when it's time to be applying that. This astrology is pointing to a period that could bring new technologies that disrupt old systems. And that includes financial systems and old social structures and old government structures. There will be an ongoing debate and tension between privacy, data security, surveillance, and how technology is affecting and being woven into government, with major shifts in global tech policy and privacy policy. There will be challenges to the traditional economic system and financial structures. Expect chaos and ups and downs when it comes to that type of material stability, which is finances, stocks, savings, bonds, food sources, supply chain, etc. Possibly as well, when we see this, I'm looking at part of what's causing this is what's happening in Taurus and Uranus and Taurus and Algol there. Part of what we see this as well, in some cases, could be earthquakes and volcanoes. So expect something of that nature somewhere this year. That is a very large, big one. Expect radical changes in how we handle money, resources, and global economic power, including cryptocurrency, alternative finance, and green energy. And when I say radical changes, I mean truly radical. If you thought the last 2 years were radical, again, this is all leading to the seeds that are being planted in this year. I feel in some ways some of these things are going to be big this year. I feel in other ways the seeds will be planted this year, but the people may not realize the effect until a few years. Meaning, for example, you know how sometimes they pass something that you don't notice, and then in a few years you see the full effect of what that means, or the general populace will realize what happened a few years prior. That's what I feel like this year is for a lot of these things. I mentioned a little bit how with with Uranus and Taurus touching Algol there, food security could become a major global issue in some countries and a lot of countries. There could be impacts to agricultural systems. Farmers March. Do you want to help stop that? Expect price volatility. Stand with your local farmers. Expect price volatility. This big farm, right? Not big pharma, big farm. Big farming. The globalist agenda when it comes to farming is what we're going to want to go against, and is a lot of what this astrology is pointing to. Expect price volatility in food, in oil, and energy markets, and some countries will be experiencing currency devaluations. Um, Still going. The energy will continue to spark big global protests. Social justice movements will continue to demand equality and human rights. There will be a focus on exposing power imbalances, especially when it comes to things to do with race, gender, economic class, and this could lead to some political instability in some regions. There will be a lot of debates starting on idealism and how certain applications of what seems like idealistic policies and idealistic moves are actually possibly opposing what they stand for in some ways, and the dichotomy. So there's going to be, what I mean is both sides, when they get angry and heated and debating each other, both sides in some way are actually standing for some type of humanitarianism and idealism. We might not know how. There will be growing friction and change and movements when it comes to immigration. And I don't just mean in the US, North America, I mean in Europe. Okay. As well as that, mental health and spirituality in two different dichotomies is going to be a greater picture, meaning that in the overall collective, there will seem like there's an even greater worsening mental health crisis. For some people, this will continue to pull them into lower vibrations. For a lot of people, this is the awakening, their dark night of the soul, to pull them into the other side of the tunnel, their spiritual awakening. And depending on how the collective is and how we as individuals unite with each other, this could lead to a shift either way in how we address mental illness. But there's more and more people that are waking up to the power of emotional well-being, mental health, holistic treatments, and spiritual practices becoming more mainstream. And I mean that in the holistic way, so less the traditional way, less the very institutionalized therapy, westernized therapy, everything must be recorded, overdiagnosing. No, we're stepping away from that. Some people are stepping further into that, which is kind of dystopic, and some people are stepping more into the more holistic approach, the more self-empowering approach. Let's see, what else? So, some of the Mars-Uranus energy here and the Algol energy as well. Algol is the aspects with Algol is making Algol very profound this year. So there's also going to be this is going to be fueling a lot of nationalistic movements in several countries. So expect polarizing politics. I was kind of hinting about this when I mentioned immigration in Europe. And it won't just be there. With leaders taking bold actions and possibly even initiating military conflicts or strong political reforms. There could be sudden global flashpoints related to national security, cybersecurity, continued territorial disputes, if you get my drift in terms of territorial disputes. And remember again, tying it back to the fact that we have the spring equinox, the astrological new year, in the window of two eclipses. This means that this is further indicating that this year is going to trigger major changes in global leadership, because solar eclipses in ancient astrology are often said to be the ones that affect leaders, and it's happening 9 days after the shift into this equinox. So major changes in global leadership, in national identities, in healthcare systems. Expect giant changes when it comes to power shifts, even power shifts in the traditional corporate world, workplace, in financial systems, and in how governments handle national crises. The eclipse season, which will last until the end of April. If you watch my timing video, I go more into the exact timeline of that. But it would have started beginning of February, how I define it, until the end of April. It will bring shocking revelations, sudden closures or openings, and big changes in areas of government and economic systems. Now, we also start this astrological new year with 3 celestial bodies in retrograde: Mercury, Venus, and Juno. And with Mercury and Venus, this is likely going to cause, maybe starting the year off, causing delays or misunderstanding in global communication, trade agreements, financial markets. Sorry, I thought we just had an earthquake. We had one yesterday here in Los Angeles. um, Travel, issues with travel. By the way, the Uranus Algol we're seeing and Pluto in Aquarius we're seeing that the both of these things happened ingressed within the last year, few months. I believe that those two combined are a big part of what we're seeing in the media about plane and traffic incidences. And you might see a little bit more of that as well continuing in the next few months. There could also be polarizing and global discussions related to gender laws, gender equality. Countries may reevaluate laws to do with that and marriage and family structure. And there's going to be a fight between reform in one direction and returning back to how things were done before in that sense. Okay, so key rituals for the collective. Okay, I talked about what to do for your own self, right? Go do your vision board, go make a goal plan, aligned action plan, do a manifestation ceremony, set your intentions, do that. What rituals to do on a collective level. This is a time to really take part in any global healing rituals or manifestation rituals for new beginning. So, and because like I said, we're all drops in this whole big pond together. So focus on healing. You can even focus on healing through collective meditations for mental health, for spiritual awakening, for equality, for love, for balance. Send love to all and wish love on all. And create a unified intention to heal global divisions and bring peace. You can do this through meditation. You can do this through prayer. And you can do this however you want. You can do this in your own little way of addressing where you feel called to bring the healing on this planet, to speak your truth, to stand up for what you personally feel called to stand up in. And to remember that even though we have to learn to function as individuals, but part of why we chose to reincarnate as humans is to also belong to the collective humanity. And that comes with a certain sense of, doing something with that. However it may be, whether it's sending love, whether it's sending prayers, whether it's embodying your truth, even just stating your opinion, standing up for the underdog, helping someone when they need help, standing up for what you believe in, these kind of things. You don't know in what way you're needed. Okay. But do this with setting intentions for global cooperation. There's also a great time to create rituals for unification, spiritual growth, and peace. And it might sound so silly and cliche, but believe it or not, scientific studies, and later I can do another video on this, so many videos, so little time, actually prove how all of these things actually can affect physical outcome. So you don't know who you could be helping with your prayer or your ritual or your group meditation. Okay. So all in all, this year holds significant energy for global transformation, technological innovations, and deep social change. Eclipses and retrograde bring both revelations and challenges. So expect powerful shifts in financial systems, global health, social justice, government, relationships, love, marriage, gender, aliens, UFOs. There's going to be big things to do with, space, aliens, whatever. AI, war. Pluto and Aquarius energy will continue to push for progressive and inclusive changes, but we have to see where within the idealism is actually hiding an agenda. That's what we're seeing with a lot of this Neptunian focus as well. And the Uranus Algol is also suggesting disruptions, power change, sudden shocks. This is a time for personal and collective healing, and this is a time where polarities are facing off and both being amplified. This is also the time, remember, I said of unions. And so love, both in a romantic sense with your divine partner and within yourself and for your neighbor and for the person that your people may view as the enemy and with God. All of this is so important now. And the power of one individual in the mind and in the heart and in the soul is so vital to how the next few years on earth will play out. And that is what is in this astrology. And this, bring it back to the new year. And that's the theme of this new year. That's literally the message. This is like a crazy new year. I can't even tell you. I mean, I did tell you, but I wish I could even say it. And but I'm excited about it because it's go time. Okay. And a lot of that go time is happening internally, is happening spiritually, is happening with love, is happening with intimacy. And you might not see how it all connects, but it all connects, because as above, so below, as within, so without. And that is one of the big lessons of this year. Another big lesson that I said too, discernment as to what is being said, discernment as to who you're being pushed to hate, discernment as what you're being pushed as is good and normal, discernment as who you really are, discernment about what you really want, discernment about who you're being pushed to love, right? Even like what I mean is who you might think your lover is. Discernment in all of these things. And lastly is staying grounded amidst what the world will try and reflect as more and more and more chaos, and realizing that the more grounded you stay, the more it will start to slow things down and equalize that. And the more as well that your reality will start to reflect it. So even within this perceived bubble of chaos, you'll have your own bubble. And from there, you can send out love and make change and help a lot of the world. Okay, let's see. Okay, next. Okay, now, so for those who love history and different cultures and mythology, I'm going to talk very briefly about the origins of the ancient New Year, what I was raised calling the Phoenician and Syrian New Year, what the Persians will call Nowruz, what other different cultures call many different things, and what we all know as well as the Spring Equinox, because it is all one, okay? And it even affects where Easter comes from with the Easter eggs. A lot of people like to tell you it comes from the Germans. Which, who knows, maybe it did, but it's not just from them, because the Phoenicians and the Babylonians, and I've heard, I'm not sure, the Persians as well, used to decorate Easter eggs around the spring equinox, because eggs represent fertility. And if you'll realize, this is why I don't think it comes from the Germans, why Eastertide with Jesus, this is when Jesus died and was reborn. Death and rebirth, the same cycle. It's a metaphor for what is happening. And it's also a metaphor of what the ancients used to have. During a lot of the ancient pagan religions, a lot of them also had a god that would have died and been born again. Or gone into the underworld and come back up, like Persephone. And so in a way, Christianity, Jesus' death and rebirth is a continuation of the death and rebirth metaphor, energy, archetype. And it's in these regions, right? When you think of, okay, well, where was Jesus born? His native language was Aramaic. His first language was Aramaic, Syriac, which was an old, it's one of the Semitic languages, and it's and it was predated by an old Canaanite language, which was in the same family as the language that the Phoenicians spoke. And the Phoenicians, Syrophoenicians, were around the area at that time. That's why, in the Bible, Jesus talks about seeing a Syrophoenician woman. And they would have had their pagan religion. At the time, what existed there was the old Phoenician religion, and then the old Aramean religion, which were the same, just slightly different names for the gods, and Judaism. Those were the three faiths, right? Christianity came along and took a lot of the first Christians belonged to those three, which were basically two, because the Aramean and Phoenician religion were just basically the same, but belonged to these two faiths, okay? And so a lot of what we see in Christianity actually comes from the pagan religion of those people, which were my ancestors. And so they had the Easter egg before, and the Easter egg would be dyed in that time and represent fertility. And now, because death and rebirth, and as with the birth of Christianity, the Easter egg tradition came. And of course, in history, I actually started off getting a bachelor's in history, if you can't tell. And I remember watching a lecture by an amazing, amazing historian at my university, a great professor. And he was British, and he talked about the westernization of civilization, of history, and how a lot of history actually is westernized, whitewashed in a way. Truly what he means is changed and erased. Or given credit to different people. And he focused so many lectures on the Phoenicians and how much of what is now perceived as Western culture, including the very name of Europe, Europa, came from the Phoenicians. Europa, you can look this up yourself, I'm not lying, was a Phoenician princess. And so, And some people say the first inhabitants, which were in Crete of Europe, actually came from what was Phoenicia. And as is all known amongst historians, and as well as the first alphabet came from Phoenicia, from a city called Ugarit, which is near modern-day Latakia and modern-day Syria. Okay, so all this is to say, so that's the theme of death and rebirth. And it's not just with the Phoenicians. Okay, I'm focusing on that because this channel is called Phoenician Priestess. But a lot of the most ancient cultures had this knowledge. So the Persians, the Babylonians, the Arameans, the Egyptians saw the new year around the spring equinox. Not just them, also in the British Isles, right? And as time went on and as cultural and knowledge trade continued, fast forward to 15th, 16th century Europe. At that point, Europe had already been turned. Well, I don't like when people talk about Europe as one entity, but a lot of countries in Europe had already been made Christian and forgotten their pagan origins, and had also been forced to have the Gregorian calendar on them, which was tied to faith, but shouldn't be tied to faith, right? It shouldn't be tied to religion, because the natural calendar, the astrological calendar, is aligned with the heartbeat of nature, which is by nature holy. So even though the Gregorian calendar had been formally forced on people, but the average villager was still calling April 1st the new year. So spring equinox is always predated the beginning of April, depending on when exactly the equinox landed. And some of the ancient cultures would celebrate for that entire time frame. Some would start before. And so for a lot of the cultures, April 1st represented the end of those celebrations. Thus, April 1st represented the new year. What's interesting is when I was growing up, my mom would call April 1st the Syrian New Year, the pagan New Year. And so a lot of most of what is modern day, what was Phoenicia, is modern day Lebanon and the entire western coast of Syria and Cyprus and southern part of Turkey. And of course, the Phoenicians colonized Sardinia, Corsica, Malta, all these other places. But the Phoenician mainland was modern day Lebanon and the western chunk of Syria. And so when I was growing up, my mom would call April 1st Syrian New Year, and she'd always say on that day, Happy Syrian New Year. And so I always grew up thinking it was just us who had it as the new year, until later when I got really into history. And I saw that no, many countries in Europe, especially around the British Isles, they were so hesitant to let go of April 1st being their new year as well, that, they started to really push it around the 1600s. And that's when we get the term April Fools, because it started being called the Fool's New Year. And slowly but surely, April Fools became this day for pranking that only fools would celebrate as the new year. And people forgot that the spring fertile time was, and treated January 1st as the new year. And why this is such a big deal is because your natural body's rhythm is tied to the heartbeat of the earth, to the cycles of the universe. And so if you really tune into yourself and away from the programming of society, you yourself might likely feel like, around December, January, you might not feel energized to really go after with that Aries energy, with that fire, to go after your goals. You might not feel energized to execute plans. You might not feel positive. You might not feel like you're wanting something new, because the winter is the death part. It's the cocoon. It's the transformation. It's the processing. Spring is the eruption, is the movement, is the birth, right? Winter, death, spring, rebirth. And so, yeah, when you really think, that's why a lot of people around the new year, the energy is more internal. It's more hibernation, like in nature, how a lot of animals will hibernate in that time. And so, some people go as far as to say, this is in the spiritual world, really deep spiritualists, philosophers, etc., that this change was actually done on purpose, because the powers of that be have been in power for a long time, and they understood the cycles of the planet and the cycles of humans and how they're actually all synced in one. And one way to keep humanity disempowered is to disempower them from their connection with God, with Source, which we can feel through Mother Earth and through nature. And so this disconnection, this forgetting of the real new year, of when you can actually supercharge changing your life and your goals, some people say could be on purpose. Now, I'm not going to say what I think, but I will leave all of these interpretations for you to digest and to think. And I hope that with this new year, you feel energized and you listen to your body more versus what is always being pushed by you. For example, Saturday, this is unrelated to the new year, but first, Saturday is ruled by Saturn. Saturn loves to get things done, loves to set things in order, loves to clean, loves to plan, loves to work. Friday is ruled by Venus. Venus is the lover. She loves beauty. She loves art. She loves creation and love and making love and joy and laughing and laughter. Those are two very different energies. So if you listen to your actual intuition, you might be feeling more called to actually work on a Saturday and not work on a Friday. But society has us starting the work week on a Monday, ruled by the moon, which is emotions in the internal world, and ending and not working on a Saturday. And so this is what I mean of how much do you actually feel yourself, but you've just gaslit yourself, not that it's wrong. And maybe how much of when you connect your intuition is actually connecting to the ancient wisdom that that your ancestors, whether from the British Isles trying to desperately hold on to their April 1st New Year, or to the old Phoenician empire that is now modern day Syria, Lebanon, parts of Turkey, Cyprus, etc. How much Malta and parts of Sicily too, and Sardinia. Okay, I'll stop. How much of that is you're actually connecting to wisdom that is thousands and thousands of years old, and that your DNA still knows and recognizes. Now, I'm going to end here because I feel like I was talking and talking. I wanted to do a whole thing on Phoenician rites during the new year. I got my bookshelf looked like it was going to fall. Seasonal rites of Baal and Astarte. Baal is the Phoenician equivalent of Zeus. His name was also known as Il, which is where we get the Hebrew word for God from, Il, because remember, before Judaism started there, most of them were Phoenicians. That's why they carry the Phoenician phenotype. A lot of the Mizrahi Jews, as well as a lot of Malta, as well as a lot of Syrian and Lebanese minorities, they carry the Phoenician phenotype. We're all the same people, and the Abrahamic religions have made us forget and want to fight each other. That's another side note. But Baal, also known as Il, which is also where we get Elohim in Hebrew from, and also where we get Ilah in Arabic from, which also from Ilah, you can take the next step and see where it leads to if you speak Arabic. That was the name for the same god, and it was like Zeus or Jupiter. That is Il or Baal. And Astarte was the feminine equivalent, also known as Ishtar. You've probably heard Ishtar thrown around in the spiritual community. And this is her. This is Astarte or Ishtar. Ishtar was her Babylonian and also her Aramean name. And her Astarte and Ishtar are one and the same. And she is she's the precursor, many people believe, of Venus and Aphrodite. And she represented fertility, love, sex, passion, but she was a tough cookie. And she also represents what the feminine needs to remember, that the feminine is not just soft. Of course, the feminine is soft, but the feminine is also the lioness who protects her children. And Astarte was the protector of the weak and the avenger of women and children, and of those wronged. And she was also the goddess of writers and poets. And so the old Phoenician rites included of spring were fertility rites, just like all the other ancient cultures. And I was going to go more into that, but I think I'll make it a separate video because I've talked enough, and dive into the old ancient literature. A lot of what we know about the Phoenicians, like I said earlier, because of geopolitics and the agenda that I think goes back thousands of years, is not as easily available. And so I wanted to take the time to explain it more. I'll do that later. But with the spring, there were spring rites that represented fertility and the coming together of Baal and Astarte. And in some villages, they would also say it was the rising again of Baal. And this is where there were differences in actually the different Phoenician myths. The village where my mother the area where my mother comes from, there are these flowers that grow that are named after it's like called translates to like the sadness of Baal. And it talks about a story where Mot, which is the Phoenician god of death, which is where the Arabic word for death comes from, because later the Arabs invaded the Eastern Mediterranean. And so they learned some words from there, like Beit, if you speak Arabic, is also a Phoenician word, means house, and it also in Farsi, I think. No, that's Techt. Never mind. Okay, anyway, Baal was killed. He fought Mot, the god of death. And then he was reborn around the spring equinox. Does that sound familiar? And so that's what I was trying to tell you when I said the pagans of that religion heavily influenced Christianity. And the powers that be don't want you to know that, because they don't want this unification across what has now been 3 divisions of the Abrahamic religion. When it goes back to the roots, when you understand the history and the shared history that these people share, it takes away power from the institutions, the authority, but it also unites the people, and they do not want that. And so I'm going to end it here. But happy Phoenician New Year, happy Syrian New Year, happy Persian New Year, happy Babylonian New Year, happy Old Celtic New Year. Happy, did I miss anyone? Happy everyone who used to celebrate between the beginning of March to the beginning of April, because you were in sync with the true New Year. And go out there and do not worry about the other stuff. I want to be accurate, so I give my predictions for the world, but it's not going to be, even if it seems chaotic, this is a year where your free will can do so much. Thank you so much. One last thing I'm going to say, and I'm a bad YouTuber because I forgot to say this. If you've liked this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it helps me out so much and it helps other people find this video. And please comment, because it makes me so happy to read your comments, and I love to know what you like, and I love to answer your questions, and I love to see your questions. Some weeks are busier than others, so sometimes it takes me a week to get back, but I always do read them. Sometimes it's just one day. This is a busy week though, but it helps me out so much, and it helps other people find this channel. And there's a lot of research that goes into this video, and a lot of it as well that I try to make the approach unique. And so it just helps me out so much. So thank you for any like, any comment, any share, any subscription. It means a lot. And also don't forget, any subscribe plus comment, any subscription plus comment counts as an entry to win a free reading. And I will be announcing the winner for the next reading in 4 weeks' time. Bye.